anyway, I'm greeting all of you from the Nullarbor Roadhouse, which, funnily enough, as the name suggests, as Mike knows, who's travelled with me, is a little bit more behind a name, and this is obviously on the Nullarbor Plain. Now, a lot of people travel on the Eyre Highway, but today what we're going to do is we're actually going to travel on the Old Eyre Highway, because why not? That's why we have a four-wheel drive. Four-wheel drives are a tool for exploration. So I'm going to take the Eyre Highway all the way to the South Australian, West Australian border. This is the idea. And then head due south to the Baxter Cliffs. Now I want to set up camp there tonight because I've got a particular shot that I want to get for a commercial, because we actually shoot commercials for our sponsors. We provide media packages, and this sponsor in particular is Zippo, and they've been really nice to deal with, and we want to make sure that we get the shots to make this commercial. The Adelaide show has finished, the Adelaide 4-Wheel Drive Adventure show, so this is just me basically coming back, and I thought, why not bring you along for the ride? It's been nice just to sit on the road. The shows are always good fun, but there is a lot of preparation that goes into them, and make sure I'm going where I need to go. Yeah, so it's nice just to get back and actually just sit on the road and get back to being me. Not that I take on a different persona at these shows. I don't know how to do that, but it is nice just to be quiet, listen to a bit of music. I've got a couple audio books that I'm sort of trying to work through. So plenty to do. The Perentie seems to be going okay. We have had a bit of a gearbox issue which has plagued us on across the Nullarbor, which was driving over this way. Pete from PCB, if you're watching this, Pete, top job, thank you so much for all your help and assistance. He's jimmied up a makeshift fix of putting a bit of airline from the Phillip plug of the gearbox to the actual, sorry, just trying to multitask here, kids, people. So he's done a great sort of, I guess, bush mechanic's job of making sure everything's okay. Gearbox hasn't blown up yet, so I guess, we're all right, but we'll see how things go. Anyway, I'm going to do a bit of navigation, and I'll catch you later on, as always, down the... So, no four-wheel driving video on YouTube these days. Shouldn't go without an airing down segment. Personally, I think airing down your tyres is much like ordering a cup of coffee. It changes every time. I can't understand coffee. It's just water and beans. But that's just me. And tyre pressures are the same. It's really what comes down to suiting your vehicle, the weight, and also the overall tyre construction too, and the climate that you're in. You're going to run higher pressures when it's hotter, and you're going to run lower pressures when it's colder, because it all comes down to the overall friction of the tyre, and also comes down to the rubber composite of the actual tyre itself, the overall vulcanized rubber in the tyre. There, a few little tongue twisters in there. So yeah, I think people go a little bit overboard. What works for you, and tyre pressures themselves isn't a definitive quantitative value either. Back in the day, before these fancy deflatable gauges and storm, this and that, you used to put a ruler on the ground or a tape measure. And that's how you would do it. Shit. Went a bit too low there anyway. That's what happens when you're talking to camera. That'll be alright. So yeah, and that was looking at the overall bulge and the overall flat spot on the base of the tyre. So that's really what you want to sort of be looking at. How does the tyre look? How does it perform? So that's my 2 cents and more. And everyone else here, I know you have your own opinion on it too, just like coffee. But anyway, as long as they stay round and not flat on the bottom all the time, it's a great day. So I'll do the other ones. Their number 5 trailer is pretty light, so I'm putting them down to about 15 psi, and we're not in a Land Cruiser, folks. We don't have twin turbos, so we're just tucking along at 30-40 k's an hour. We're here to enjoy the journey and the adventure. End of rant. Let's get on with the show. So here we are on the Old Eyre Highway. I've got to laugh at myself. I am a dork, never been cool. Why would you want to be? Because I'm driving along this bumpy track, and just to the left of me, I think you can probably just see a car coming now. Just watch out. Here they come. And there they go. It's a lovely smooth road there, and I'm bumping along on this bumpy old track. But I'll tell you what, it feels better. It feels much better doing this. And we're going to start veering away from the highway pretty soon. So, just see how we go. Steady, steady all the way. Amazing to think this is just one lane, and this was the key highway that linked Western Australia to the rest of Australia, pretty much. Prior to 1943 there wasn't anything here, and I'll talk about that later on down the track. One of the tanks, and these tanks litter the Eyre Highway. Now these were so important back in the day because, you know, motor vehicles weren't what they are today. They weren't as rugged, they weren't as reliable, I guess you could say. And you know, you wouldn't be looking at doing 1,000 kilometers a day. That was just ludicrous. That was just stupid. You would have to have so much coffee to do that. So, you know, you'd cough and splutter your way along the Nullarbor, and you'd basically try and hit one tank after another. And the construction of these tanks varies depending on when they were built. This one looks like an earlier one. It's actually built out of the surrounding limestone. And you can actually see on top it's got corrugated iron, and it's been built in such a way that when it actually rains, that hits the corrugated iron, and then it actually drains into the tank, filling up the tank. Pretty clever when you think about it. And so, even though, you know, you had a somewhat water source here, it was still really a gambling act, because
you just didn't know whether any rain had actually been here, passed through here, and how long it had actually been since the last decent rainfall, because temperatures here can get up to 50 degrees centigrade like that, and the water within it can actually evaporate over time. Also, dead animals falling in the tank itself too can spoil the water, and if you drink that stuff it can make you really, really sick. But anyway, we'll go in, we'll have a bit closer look at this tank. There must be a bit of water in it because there's actually some finches flying around, and they don't really go too far from water because they're grain eaters, so they've got a very dry palate, you could say. But anyway, we'll go and have a look. Apologise if the audio's not that good, there's a bit of wind around here today, but this is just amazing. This stuff, this kind of stuff is just incredible. I've seen this before in the goldfields, and I've seen a couple of examples earlier up the track or the highway here today. And what they've done here is we've got our tank over that way. Over here they've actually excavated out a massive depression in the ground, so when it rains it actually pulls in there, and you can see a bit dry at the moment, but you can actually see in there that we've got grass growing at the bottom and there's nothing around it, so it obviously does contain water. Now, looking at the overall, I guess, dead nature, let's say, of that particular grass in there, I don't think we would actually find any water even if we dug down. You know, if it's looking like chaff, then there's no water in the subsurface and you're going to have to dig too deep and it's not going to be worth it. But what an impressive setup. This is actually much bigger than I thought, just looking from the road in. But I've just had a look around the tank and it's incredible. We're going to go look at that, as I said before, but I just got a bit sidetracked. But the way that they've constructed it, this tank, is just awesome. So let's get over there. So this kind of simple, effective engineering I just find absolutely fascinating. As I said, they've built it out of the local rock around here. Cement, one of the key ingredients, is lime, so they had plenty of that. But the wood here is the interesting part. That would have had to been brought in probably on camel train back here in the day, or probably from the railway. Either way, it had a long way to come. When I first initially looked at the tank itself, I thought it had actually collapsed in, and probably has partly collapsed in. But it's designed all to flow down into the centre, and even though this is probably close to 80 years old, it's still doing a really good job. There's plenty of water in there. Oh, a swallow or a finch just popped out. So it's incredible. There's another little structure behind this, and that's actually, looks to me to be like a overflow tank when this fills up too much. So yeah, amazing. And as I said, you know, this is 80 years old. It would be. Probably would have been put in place when the highway was put through, or maybe even before. Who knows? But incredible stuff. And this is it. You know, this is what can make a really somewhat featureless, boring track just really interesting. Anyway, I could spend all day here, but we've got miles to make, so we'll see where we end up next. What a nice spot though. So we're here at the remains of 16 Mile Tank, and this is the furthest west tank, or the first tank that you come across travelling east from the South Australian West Australian border. Similar construction as to the one that we saw earlier, and along the actual Eyre Highway itself, we've talked about the tanks, but there is actually quite a few rock holes too, and these I find fascinating because even the highway obviously had to follow those rock holes initially, so important, and they would have been critical out here trying to explore in this part of the world, and for those who had subsisted here for thousands of years, such a special spot. But from here we're going to leave the Eyre Highway and we're going to head due south down to the cliffs of the Australian Bight, as it's about another 15 kilometres or so to the South Australian West Australian border. So we'll have a little bit of a look down there. So I'm just sort of filming this on the go, so I apologise once more. But we're down here at the Australian Bight, and what a incredible place it is. It's rugged, and there's a certain beauty in its rugged form. We've got wonderful sand dunes down here. We've got an incredible beach that would leave Bondi in the dust, literally. And then a lot of sharks out there too. But anyway. But it was on this spot, or round about here, nearly 9 years ago now, that Damon and I came over from Tassie with our series Heading West, which you can watch on our channel, and I really encourage you to do so. It's a bit dated now, but I think it's still a good little video series that we did. Certainly, very cutting edge at the time. And we camped on the edge of these cliffs here. And I remember waking up from my swag and looking at the Series 2 Land Rover. And I was just blown away. Not only by the view, but I paid $400 for the car, and I keep saying it, but it's the best $400 I ever spent. It literally has changed my life completely. I wouldn't be doing this kind of stuff. I wouldn't have gone to the Adelaide 4-wheel drive adventure show presenting. Damon and I wouldn't have made films that have been shown, around the world, and written for, over half a dozen magazines worldwide. So, and that's only the start of it, really. If we hadn't done that trip over to Western Australia, I wouldn't have met my now wife and have a wonderful son, and have a life of somewhat of adventure. So it's incredible. People who don't own a Land Rover or don't own a vehicle of significance just can't comprehend how important they are. It's not an interest, it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle, and it changes your life. And it's incredible being back here, and I just had a quiet night last night by myself, and had a couple fermented beverages, I'm happy to admit that. Had a shandy on the Landy for the London Mud Club. But it was nice just to sort of sit, be quiet, and just reflect. So today I'm going to pack up all of this, my teapot and my pannikin, and we're going to head into Western Australia. And I'm probably going to leave you here, see how I feel. But it's a pretty nice spot to sort of finish this little video off on. I'll show you what I can see in front of me here. It's just brilliant. And I feel also that these moments, this sort of remote travel that I've been doing, I really don't think a lot of people will be able to experience this in the same way, the same sort of cavalier, happy-go-lucky way that we have in 20 years' time. Not to be doom and gloom, but everything does seem to be becoming more and more regulated. There's more and more permits around. And, you know, that's just the way it is, because more and more people are travelling. And, yeah, it's just the way of the world. But I feel very, very lucky, fortunate to be here, and to be here with this vehicle too. You know, this is why you own a Land Rover. This is why you own a proper four-wheel drive. But yeah. Anyway, I'll let you get on with your lives. Hope all is well. And yeah, if you haven't already, subscribe to Seriously Series. Give us a thumbs up. But please do support Seriously Series on Patreon. I'm not kidding you, and I'm certainly not pulling your leg when I say it does make a big difference. And the more support we get via Patreon in particular, the more views and all the rest that we get, the more adventures we can bring your way, because it does sadly all cost money. But anyway, we'll see you on the next one. Catch you then.